So, Cody, I'm glad you're here today.
Thank you.
You have gone to a lot of different conferences over time, and so maybe tell everybody what to expect at the Growthward Summit. This is our fourth one. They're all the theme around them all is always leadership.
Sure.
But it's told from very different perspectives. It's told from the perspective of sports commentators, people that are in sports. Last year we had 2 Major League Baseball players there. We have musicians there who have overcome obstacles. This year we have Rhett Butler.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. We have the mascot from the Kansas City Chiefs. So we also, what's so cool is sometimes we think we're, expansion, that it's a Keller Williams only thing.
No, not at all.
Yeah, what's interesting is we have a guy here in Phoenix who has the vision kind of like we do for expansion for churches. And so he has 34,000 people that attend on 10 campuses. His vision is to go to 200 campuses in the next short period of time. And he has a whole plan for how to do that. And it's really interesting. So my whole perspective is to have a lot of people there that are leading, and they're leading in very different ways, but with the same model.
Correct. What I like about it is that it's a different experience.
Yeah.
It's the same goal, different experience around the goal. Though, like at the Growthward Summit, for me, it's almost like a culmination of what you've learned, where you've learned it from, and how you've learned it, like all coming together, like on these 2 paths that do this. What I like though is that it's not just the path of selling more homes.
Right.
You go to a conference and learn from somebody who sells a bazillion homes a year, and you know that's what you're going to get. However, what you provide and what happens at the Growthward Summit is you go and you just listen to how people win at life, how they win at obstacles, how they win at business, and then you take that home to sell bazillion homes with it.
Yeah, I think that's true because life happens, things show up, and really it's not a question of if it will, it does.
It absolutely does. Yeah,
and then the question is, how are we going to handle it?
Well, nobody gets through it without it. Like nobody gets to skip that, right? Like you've had an obstacle here or there.
Yeah. And
like no one gets to skip it. And I think that at the end of the day, the faster that you make peace with it and you go, well, I know it's happening, is less time you spend with why did it happen.
That's true. I mean, I think about some of the other people that are coming, and they've had very similar obstacles that you and I have, just in a different setting.
Sure.
What do we learn from it, and what does it look like, and how do we all get through it? Some extraordinarily good tacticians who are very good at listing property.
Correct.
Who are also going to come in and talk to us about social media, about how to, have a, explosive life this year, getting more listings.
What leverage to pull? Like, listen, do steps 1 through 7 and get A, B, C. Then do 1 through 7 again and A, B, C again. Like the tacticians are just as important. Like none of it's unimportant. What I like though is that you're packaging it all together. You're like, all right, let's time out on the real estate stuff and let's just talk life. Because the more real estate stuff that we do, we're doing it because of life. We don't do life because of real estate. And it's so easy to get so one tracked on that one thing. I like how at your summit, you pull it out of that and say, hang on, let's go talk about this. Like what I feel about it when I go would be like, what's my purpose? My purpose is not to sell a bazillion homes. Like that's never been the purpose. That doesn't get me out of bed. That doesn't make me excited. Being in a bazillion locations in expansion doesn't make me excited. All of those things are just depictors of what is it I said I wanted to achieve and where do I have to be to get there. Those are levers to get there.
And who do I have to become in order to attract the people that I need in order to do what we want to get done. And
keep the ones that we want to keep.
Oh, that's true.
Like how do we grow to keep the big talent that we have? Like you know this as well as anybody. You've taught it to me again and again and again. And I do talk about it at Growthward is listen, sometimes you can't hire someone because you don't think big enough. Other times you accidentally hire someone you don't think big enough to keep. And so then how do you move quick enough to go, oh man, this is gonna push me like, whoa, I almost got lucky. I accidentally hired this talent. Now what do I do?
So and at the same time, I remember last year, John Maxwell and I did a Q&A, and I just remember I've gone back and listened to that over and over.
Time out. Do you realize I need you to hear this. You show up at a Growthward Summit with somebody who just says, last year when John Maxwell and I were doing a Q&A, do you realize that proximity is power? Your proximity to John Maxwell, how many people get to do a Q&A with John Maxwell?
It was fun.
Like that doesn't happen. And the fact that it happens for you, That's why you show up.
Well, then the cool thing is some of the names that are coming this year to speak are names that John gave me.
Yes.
I literally was on a Sunday night. It was like 9 o'clock at night. I was still up. And he was calling me to give me a name of somebody that he thought I should invite to speak. I just thought that was so cool.
Which is incredible. And that's where, like, that's the proximity piece. Like, you're close to that. And then anybody who talks to you, it'd be like they're just as close to John Maxwell. Though everybody only has so much bandwidth.
That's
so
true.
Who you're next to matters. Like that old saying of the 5 people you hang out with, come hang out with Kristen at the Growthward Summit. Like, that's, in essence, you're hanging out with John Maxwell.
Well, thank you. But you made a good point. Do you remember last year? Well, last year Ben Kinney was sitting out at the fire pit every single night. You could go out there and sit with him and ask him anything you wanted to. He came and was sitting by the fireplace inside the next morning, like at 7:30, which Ben was out of bed at 7:30. Shocker.
Yeah.
Leading a little mastermind for anybody who wanted to get up and do that. So I think the cool thing also is that it is small enough. I think our seating this year is 400. It's small enough that you can get one-on-one. Like, how easy is it to get one-on-one at family reunion when there's 18,000 people there?
It's not going to happen. And if it does, it's the 2-minute hallway conversation or the 30-second, hey, how are you? There's no depth. Like, I mean, if you can walk up and talk to somebody, like Ben or somebody like Ben sitting at a fireplace, I mean, those are the things that you walk away from and you go, that was worth the ticket. That was worth the expense. That was worth the travel. That was worth it.
That after hours fireside chat was, if they only got that, they would say it was worth it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that actually said that on the survey. We surveyed everybody last year. What did you like? What would you like to see different, et cetera, et cetera. And they said some of the best things came out of just those fireside chats.
Just the conversation.
Yeah, just the conversation on the side.
Yep.
In the hallways. We always say at family reunion, our best things are hallway conversations.
Yes.
So we think it's going to be fun. And it's going to be in April this year, which it's warm.
Remind me
but
the dates, the
hot.
specific dates.
It's the 18th, 19th, and
That's right.
20th.
Yeah. 18, 19,
April.
20.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. April 18, 19, 20.
Right here in Scottsdale.
Right here in Scottsdale.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to get to.
Very easy.
Easy travel. Like anywhere you are in the country, that's $300 ticket. Like, that's cheap. Phoenix is one of the cheapest airports to get in and out of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the worst place on the planet to hang out in April.
No, it's like 80, 85. It's nice. Unless you have lily white skin like you.
Yes,
then
yes,
you
then I
want
have to,
lots
yeah.
of sunscreen.
Yeah.
So what else do you think? What would somebody take away? Let's say they've only been in real estate a year, or they've been in real estate 35 years. Why should someone come if they're a newer agent? What are they going to take away? Is it going to be completely over their head? Is it going to be?
Here's why it's a mistake not to come. You're one of the best people in the industry at teaching to the top of the room. And so when you show up at Growthward, everybody who's talking is talking to the highest earners in the room. The person who's making $3 million, $4 million, $10 million. I mean, depending on who's in the room, could be $20 million a year. Like, you're talking to that level of the room. Now, everybody who's below that has the opportunity to do one of two things. One, go to classes that are designed for them, or go to classes designed for who they want to become. Going to Growthward is going to something that's designed for who you want to become. You can go to your board, nothing wrong with that, and take a class on filling out forms.
Sure.
If you've been in real estate for 6 months, you probably got to go to a class on filling out forms.
Right.
You've been in real estate for 2 years, you probably need to go to a class on, how to do an escalation clause for a multiple, blah, blah, blah. All those things are important, but they're not vital. Once you learn them, you don't have to learn them again.
Right.
Like, they're done, they're in the bag, you go. The reason you go to Growthward, whether you've had a license for 1 day or 10 years or 20 years, is that you're teaching to the top of the room. And that's where you want to be. Like, that's who you want. Like, I want to listen to somebody who says, listen, I made 10 million, but I want to go to 15 million. What that guy wants to know is what I want to know.
And last year, this is a fundraiser. We raise it for charity. Last year, we raised almost 175,000. And we gave that money away to 3 specific charities that we raised money for. And this year, I told John, this year I want to raise $500,000. And he said, it was interesting. He said he's teaching me the fundamentals of. He said the first 3 years that he actually did a fundraiser, he lost money. I'm like, wow. He said, because I wasn't inviting the right people to the room.
Got it.
Interesting.
Yep.
And so he every year he's teaching me something new. And last year when I told him, hey, I want to raise $500,000, he said, well, how much have you ever raised? I'm like, 47,000. He goes, okay, let's try to get to a couple hundred.
It might
this
be
year.
a stop in between,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And then try to get to get to $500,000. But what I found is it was it was really hard to get the first 47,000. It wasn't nearly as hard to get the 175.
Yes.
It seems to get, I don't know that it's easier, but maybe it's just the people that are attracted to the event who.
I think it gets simpler though. You get a more clear vision. It's kind of like the first 100 homes you sell in a year might be the hardest 100 that you ever sell. To go from 0 to 100 compared to 100 to 200, totally different.
Yeah, that's true.
Totally different. Like that first, but that's where, that second 100, you go, well, I know how hard it is. Like I know what I have to do and who I have to be and where I have to go, the types of habits I have to have. But why is it so important to you to raise $500,000 and give it away?
Well,
for someone who doesn't have to do it,
yeah.
Why do you want to do it?
Because it's interesting. I've also learned from John, when you give to a charity, if you don't see that they can become self-sustaining in 5 years, meaning they're not using the money that you gave them to become self-sustaining, find another charity.
All right.
So when I see, for instance, Teen Challenge in New Mexico buying a backhoe and buying a septic truck because it's rural and they can make money, pumping septics.
Yeah.
They can make money digging water lines, putting up fence for the farmers out there, et cetera. And I see that within a couple of years of helping them with large chunks of money to make an investment in equipment, for instance, that they are becoming self-sustaining. That's incredibly gratifying for me.
Which also compounds the giving.
Right.
Like you give and they take that and they buy a backhoe with it and then they can help themselves. Mm-hmm. So rather than just, hey, here's a sandwich, you can eat it, you're basically saying, here's something you can make more sandwiches with.
It's kind of like my thing, leading other leaders to influence and lead other leaders.
All right.
So it's the same thing. When I think about my house in Alaska, which, in Wasilla, where I'm from, there's, Cody, when I first started raising money for them, there was 864 kids in Wasilla that were school age that were homeless. That doesn't count the ones that aren't school age. They can't count those. I mean, they can't, there's no way to figure that number out, but they can count the ones in school. And now it's over 1,100. And last year with the 50,000 that we gave my house, they were able to buy the building that they're renting from the city. So now instead of paying $5,000 a month of rent, they can go take that money and buy and invest it in another counselor, in another person to help these kids.
Yeah.
So when you see what they're doing, and they're teaching kids, all these, because you cannot be there if you don't have a job. If you aren't going to school. I mean, so there are some parameters.
Some rules to get in.
There's some rules to get in because it's not a handout, it's a hand up for them. And again, my story. And so being homeless myself in Wasilla, and now here I am, a business person, able to raise money and help the very community that I grew up in. Doesn't get any better. So
tell me about, and I know you talk about this at Growthward too, and you're the one who taught me about the idea behind, I'll use a different term than you maybe, the idea behind smart giving. In other words, if you're running a real estate sales business and you're going to give, it behooves you to give to charities or events or functions that can give back to the very business that raised money for it.
Yeah, very true. It's interesting.
So how do you choose that? Otherwise, it's just, hey, I like this charity, give them some money.
I think that it becomes, I just look up there in the article that the Frontiersman wrote on me, and it becomes part of the community because what the mayor of Wasilla said is, he said, do you realize that when you started this in the community as a business person giving to the community, it took a huge burden off the city because now there's this facility that's completely, it's a 501c3, but it's not run by the city.
Right.
And he gave us some statistics, for instance, how much crime was reduced, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now there's other business owners who are doing the same thing in the city. So it all of a sudden takes the burden off of the government, off of the city. And when business owners and churches can come together and actually provide for the needs of the city. And it's one of those things, the book, Give and Take by Adam Grant.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that concept of strategic giving such that in the community now, everyone knows that if they donate or if they buy a home from us, that we're going to donate a part of the proceeds from the commission to those charities. So it becomes one of those feel goods that not only are we getting a house, but now we're actually participating with her in the community.
Right. But you learned early on, because I remember this in your story, early on, you let people choose any charity they wanted.
Right, absolutely.
Then you said, well, hang on, we got to neck it down. Remind me, tell this group why you did that, because I think that's a smart play for anybody who wants to give. Like, how do you do it smart?
So we certainly allowed people to give on a local level, but they got to pick it. So it could be the Dog and Puppy Rescue, it could be the Senior Center, all of which are worthy charities. But when the Senior Center gets a $35 check, it's kind of like, that's great.
Thanks, yeah.
Or when the Puppy Rescue gets a $50 check,
it's not going to move the needle anyway.
It's not going to move the needle. But here's what did move the needle. It's the first year that I actually helped my house, and that was someone had broken in and gotten in the safe and stole all the kids' gas cards, their food cards, titles to vehicles. These kids literally couldn't get to school. They didn't have any money. They didn't have any money for gas. They couldn't get to work. And for us to, literally the next day after hearing about it, walk a $5,000 check over to them, that moves the needle.
Game changer. It's
like all of a sudden it's like, we can't fix everything today, but we can fix what we need to fix. And they figure it out. So, at first and I think I told you this, I was really, concerned. It bothered me that it seemed like here we are giving money in the community so that the community will, in essence, there's always a reciprocity.
Yes.
And they'll do business with us. And Mom Anderson helped me get over that real quick. And she said, how are you going to give away a lot of money if you don't make a lot of money?
Correct.
So it's like,
get it?
Yeah. So I left that behind a long time ago. But it's when you can see that you can actually move the needle and actually get something done. I'll tell you one more story. Last year, one of the other people that came to the Growthward event, the third charity that we gave to is called YWAM. It's called Youth with a Mission. It's based in Hawaii, but they basically teach people a trade. For instance, how to be a plumber, how to be a finished carpenter, so that when they go to another country, their visa doesn't say missionary. Correct. It says plumber, carpenter. Yes. And
they make money with anywhere.
Yes. And when they come back to help people, when they come back to the US, again, we need those jobs so badly. Now we have trained people. Yep. So the other day I got an email from YWAM, and they said, there was a gentleman over here who is a veteran for whatever reason became homeless. We told him if he worked at YWAM, he could at least have food and shelter. That time period is running out, and he now wants to be part of the program, and he has to raise money for his missionary work there. And how is someone who's homeless going to do that? And so they told me how much money he needed, and of course it was within 24 hours. Sure. And for us, again, to be able to just write a check, and for that guy to be in the program, somebody who wants to make a difference, that's their part of giving. Again, it was just something I think was really meaningful.
But you got to have the resources.
You have to have the resources
to be able to meet the need, and that's why the idea behind the Growthward Summit is so important. It's like, listen, I want you to come. I want you to think. I want you to think bigger than you've ever thought. Then I want you to learn the ideas and the strategies and the models and the systems to go implement it, so that you have a pocket full of money. When you've got a pocket full of money, you can choose anything you want to fix, and you can fix it. Without that pocket full of money, you have to think about yourself. Right. You're not a bad person to be broke and think about yourself. You have to.
Well, it's perfect, because that's what the summit's all about. It's going from survival to significance, and the step in between is success. So you've got to have the money to have the success to take care of your family. Then you can move into significance.
How much are tickets right now?
That's a great question, because I know before January 31st, there's a 23% discount. I do know that.
Get it.
If you just Google the Growthward Summit 2020, it'll come up on Eventbrite. But
get it now before they go more expensive.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And so thank you for being our guest today.
I'll see you there.
This will replay. It'll be fun. Are you going to speak?
Yes, I'd be thrilled.
It'll be great. Maybe we can, come up with something fun for you to speak on. Everything. You always come up with the 7 ways to do this, sure, the 6 days and 7 nights to listing, or whatever they
16 ways to sit on Ben's lap at the fire.
Exactly.
You never know what you're going to get.
You just never know. It's going to be fun.
It'll
So
be good,
hope to see you there. We've got some surprise guests that we won't be able to announce till after Super Bowl, but they're going to be great. So thanks so much, and for spending a few minutes with me and Cody.
Thanks, Casey. We'll see you there.